Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to another ECLA Online Learning Center session. Today we have the digital experts from Nolia discussing how to bring business and legal operations closer together in a company. And then I will give the floor off to Sian, please.
Everyone. Today's will reveal some secrets on how to improve the collaboration between legal departments and other business departments. The big question is how to marry business with legal. My name is Sien and I will be your host during this webinar. But first, let me introduce to you our speakers of today. Both digital legal experts, Hans van Heghe and Yves Lefere. Please, gentlemen, introduce yourself quickly to the audience.
Good morning. My name is Hans. I'm into legal, although I'm an engineer since over 25 years. So a lot of experience for a lot of customers in a wide area of sectors.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yves. I have been supporting organizations, legal departments of organizations for the past 10 years, supporting them with best practices with technology to make them digital and to make them more efficient and productive within their company, collaborating with their business colleagues. So a lot of insights from the market, from organizations, just as you are responsible in your organizations.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your introduction. And that the topic of today's webinar is something very accurate in the legal world, has been proven by a survey also conducted by ECLA. As you can see, the usage of digital tools will increase across companies in Europe. And on top of that, giving more autonomy to the business is something that has been planned in every legal department so that they can increase their efficiency. But let's have a little flashback to our previous webinar, where we discussed how you can speed up the digitalization of your legal department. We've shared with you 9 easy to follow steps, and we've also made a little abbreviation, SIM, so that you can keep in mind the most important word of every step. And today we will go more into depth in the 9th and final step, and that is how to marry business with legal. But let's have a look at the current challenges that you're probably also experiencing today, those issues between legal departments and other departments. For example, both departments are most of the time locked in their own experience, and there might be some misunderstandings in the collaboration today. But to solve this problem, we have made some rules, easy to follow, and Hans will tell you more about it and how you can improve the collaboration between your department and all the other business departments. Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sien. As an engineer, I adore, of course, abbreviations. I have a new one, RUCAT. Basically, RUCAT is about the culture you need inside your organization to make it happen. I'm not a marriage consultant. I'm rather looking to, although almost 30 years married, I'm more looking to what's needed so that people can feel good with each other, so that they can collaborate with each other. And for that, we identified 6 main topics that need to be present in your overall company culture. So it's not about tools, it's not about policies, it's really about how do we deal, how do we cooperate together. It's about respect, understanding, communication, aiming for balance, helping each other, and also help to develop each other. So if we look into more detail in those 6 elements, first of all, mutual respect. We all play a role in our organization. And your role define your responsibilities, your authority, and so on. And keep in mind that your counterparty in the business has also a role and an authorization and a responsibility within your organization. We all come with a rucksack full of expertise, of previous jobs, of previous responsibilities, of previous tasks, previous projects. And that expertise, that history, that legacy sometimes make also who we are. In regard of respect, look also to a personality. Don't play it personal, but keep in mind that everybody has a personality, a way of reacting to certain mistakes, things that are not happening as it should be, and so on. And we all have objectives. Yours in legal is from a legal perspective, but in the business, in sales, in customer services, in production, in marketing, we all have different objectives. And basically, in an organization without that respect, it will be hard to cooperate. Now, a second important element is understanding each other. I'm an engineer, so I'm using a specific language. You as legal also use a specific language. Know that that language is not always the same within your organization. So when it's about understanding each other, it's also about the basic knowledge of legal and of the business that we need to understand of each other. So in the past, I was president of the board of the Engineers Association in Belgium. One of the things we did over there was for the young graduates, organize a weekend, and a half day of that weekend, we were explaining what were legal concepts that are important for engineers. Make it that they understand what's important for legal. What is a contract? How litigations work? How courts work? Explaining all those things. Be aware that of your business colleagues, only a minority understands your legal environment. So make sure that your colleagues also understand, learn about legal, and vice versa, that you also understand the business. But I'm confident that you are already taking emphasis on that. The third element is communication. And communication is in little stupid things sometimes. It's mainly about if you receive a question or a request of helping to design a contract, draw up a contract. It's about communication on the status, on the deadlines, on the expected dates that you will deliver something. If you don't do, people just think that nothing is happening. Within that communication, make sure that everybody understands each other. Refer to the previous point. Don't use too complex words. Make sure if you use specific slang that it's known by the people. And very important, be short and to the point. Be aware that people, texts longer than a half page are not read anymore. People only read the first half page. And if it's not there, they will not continue and they will just put the documented information aside. So that's number 3. Number 4 is balance. We all play a role, and within that role, we are all working together for the good of the company. Sales has, of course, his objectives. Production has, of course, his objectives. Marketing, engineering, and so on, everybody has his objectives. But at the end, we all work together for the good of the overall company. And you, in your role as legal, will, of course, take an emphasis on the legal risks, and the business people will take an emphasis on those business risks. But at the end, we need to support each other to obtain that objective of the balance, the good of the overall company. So it's not just business or not just legal. Fifth element is about helping each other. And helping each other means, from a legal perspective, that you will receive questions that your colleagues expect yesterday an answer on. They will ask your legal advice for certain cases with customers or prospects. They ask you to help on contract creation. They ask you to help to determine what are the obligations in certain contracts for specific customers. Sometimes they need access to legal documents, corporate housekeeping. You need input from your business colleagues when it comes to a litigation. You need also input when it's about IP management. So it's a chain, it's a circle. Nobody is at the start, nobody is at the end. Business and legal just need to work together on a number of topics. And the sixth element is about helping to develop each other. From my experience, for example, engineers, even the youngsters, they are eager to learn more about legal. So give them the opportunity to learn about your legal domain. So be proactive and provide them with smaller topics that they can better understand what the legal landscape, the legal ecosystem is about. At the end, the goal, the aim is that legal is just part of their daily operations in each department. That becomes a natural reflection. It's not something weird. It's not something too difficult. It's something that they can take on at each moment. So those 6 elements, mutual respect, understanding, communication, aim for balance, help each other and develop each other, create a kind of collaboration culture in your organization that makes it less stressful and more happiness in your organization to work together. Now, those are your culture elements. But to realize that, next to your culture, you also need an organizational support and a software support. An organizational support is about policies, shared meanings. How do we agree to work together? Software support is technology, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, portals, things like that, that can help you facilitating the communication between each other. So if we focus a little bit on that organizational support, well, first of all, as legal or as a CIO, those are typically the people involved in defining an email policy and a document policy. How can you collect all the required emails in a litigation file if you have not agreed with your business colleagues how they can communicate it to you, how they can store it in a repository, how it is secured and protected for misuse. The same with documents. So to be able to work together in an organization and to have a flow of information from one to another, somewhere you need to define at least a basic policy on how to handle emails, how to handle documents, how to protect them, how to share them. Next item in that organizational support is your standard operating procedures. Or I prefer rather to call it best practices. What will be your process of working together with the business on creating a new contract for a customer or a partnership. How will you interchange? What is your chain of actions that you execute within your organization to come to a qualitative contract where the good of the organization is protected? Once you have your contract, business needs to execute that contract. In that contract, you have obligations. How will you make sure that the business and legal together are coping with those obligations? In each business, we have risks. How do you cope with from a business perspective, from an executive operational perspective, and from a legal perspective? So you need to define simple rules on handling those topics with each other. The same applies for legal advice. If the business has a question to you on a certain topic, how will you respond to that? How will you document it? Within which time frames? And the same applies for matter management. How and when will you create your matters, and how and when will business be involved and collaborate on them? The next topic is a dictionary. Know that 15% of your knowledge is sitting in definitions. And since legal and business, engineers, production is a different world with different definitions, it's really helpful to define a dictionary, multilingual, in today's global world, where you share definitions on topics with each other. It will certainly help you in improving your communication internally. 80% of the communication issues in an organization has to do with, or I use the same word and I mean something different, or we use a different word and we mean the same. So definitions really important to improve your collaboration and communication. Today, it's very easy to record small videos. So I urge you, make some small videos on legal topics. People rather prefer to look to a small video than reading pages and pages in the document. It's not a big issue today anymore to make real good qualitative training videos. Ask a budget to award the business for their efforts in collaborating and their efforts in making sure legal topics are covered. Why don't you give a legal award each year to a certain team or a certain person or a department that are doing the most effort and doing a good collaboration with legal? It will be an example for the other colleagues, urging them also to do more effort on balancing legal and business. And why not defining at the end KPIs on legal, on how fast you are able to respond, how qualitative your answers were, if it was within agreed timeframes, on the number of risks. You can imagine a number of items that can help you define KPIs, helping you to measure how good you are in delivering services to the organization. So those 6 topics are things that you can do in defining your ecosystem, in collaborating between business and legal. Now, if we go to the third element, and of course we are a technology supplier, so we will spend a little bit more time on this. It's the race of the legal request portal. Since, let's say, a year, a little bit more, we receive more and more requests from legal departments to improve their business, to to improve their relation with the business colleagues. And one of the main elements over there that we can do from the digital world is a legal request portal. Legal request portal will help you to become proactive in your relation with the business. And it will minimize your legal effort and maximizing your service levels. So it will facilitate your interactions between business and legal people. And in the background, it can also automatically indicate a number of elements important for your KPIs, helping you to prove how important legal is for the business and for the organization. Now, when we look to features that people ask us in legal request portals, you can group them in 4 main groups. First of all, how to deal with questions, with advice. Instead of having a multitude of emails sent to you, you can imagine a kind of ticket system where the business provides you with information, context, and a question they like an answer to. And you have an internal process linked to your matter system, legal matter system, where you have your follow-up and where you can easily find earlier answers, where you can easily find background information to provide it. A second is about document and mainly contract creation. Contract creation is not always a straightforward process. You have a lot of interactions between people, as well business counterparty as legal. So facilitating that contract creation can gain a lot of efficiency in the organization. Third element is about educating your colleagues on legal news, on a legal knowledge base. And fourth is also about a little bit educating. It's about access to corporate housekeeping and access to contractual obligations. Now, for each of those, we have a little bit more detail. So if you look to the process of advice or questions, basically it's about creating a ticket, about notifying the right legal person, looking for similar questions, answers, going into discussion with the business people to have more context about the question, and then capture the answer so that you can have it available for later reuse in a knowledge base. Notify the colleague, discuss, clarify with the colleague if needed, and then you can close your question. And from a management perspective, you can then have a follow-up of outstanding questions. You can measure things like your responsiveness and delays. Things like that are feasible. Now, Yves, can you give an example how we can do that in real life?
Yes, thank you, Hans. What I would like to share with you is a little bit more insights on how you can actually implement such a legal request portal in your organization, and what it is all about, how to do it, and why you should do it. What is it? A legal request portal? It's just an access point for the business to facilitate them to ask a question to the legal department, rather than sending a mail or going to the office or just calling. And that portal can be a specific portal, or it can be something that is integrated in their way of working. It can be their SharePoint environment, it can be an intranet environment, it can be their CRM application, which links to the applications for legal. So just to facilitate them to easily ask a question. Now, why should you actually introduce such a functionality or such a way of collaborating with the business? You as a legal department, you have your responsibilities, you have your KPIs, you need to keep control, and you want to service the business better because you're more in the forefront, you're sitting within the business and you're collaborating much more than you did before. So you want to serve your internal customers better, but by tracking questions that they ask about real life business issues, you can also follow them up, and you can mitigate risk on elements that because you capture them in beforehand, and you can capture all those questions, make best practices out of it, and can reuse the answers that you're constantly giving instead of reinventing the wheel all the time, re-answering the same questions all the time. Now, how could that actually work? I would like to share some screenshots with you. So it's just a matter of keeping it extremely simple and user-friendly. So it's about just a button where you can say, I want to ask a question to legal. Is it in this particular platform for the legal department, or is it just integrated as a button in their own trusted application that they use on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a CRM system or an ERP system or whatever. So they can ask a legal question, just formulate their question, give some indications on what it is all about, which legal area it is, which urgency, etc. And then you will be able to have the necessary overviews to be able to assign those questions automatically to the legal people that are involved. You will receive notification, but also the business can receive notifications on the status when it's done, etc. And you can have reports out of it. Reports that are automated that will enable you to also show how you're working, what you're working on, what are questions that are coming back on a regular basis, in which regions, in which countries, about which topics, and then create best practices out of it so that they can find it before they ask you. Because what you want in the end is that you're pushing back information to or activities to the business, that you're not bothered anymore by answering constantly questions, but by generating and capturing those questions, centralizing them automatically in a knowledge base, enabling the business to be able to refine questions that were earlier asked, then you will actually create efficiency and boost productivity because you're pushing back work to the business and you can concentrate on what's important to you.
Thank you, Yves. Now, another large topic in a legal request portal is about contract creation. You all know contract creation can be a tedious process, taking a lot of effort and exchange of information. Now, we have NDAs, commercial contracts, HR contracts, partnership contracts, everything you can imagine. Now, what we receive as a question as the ideal world for legal is that as legal you prepare a number of intelligent contracts that based on some questions are put together. So once you have those smart document templates, you can make them available in your legal request portal. So business chooses just a template. They receive a number of questions. Those questions can be linked, for example, with a CRM or ERP system, also recuperating, copying data from those systems. Based on that filled-in form, your legal request portal generates the contract and automatically creates a legal matter within your legal matter system. And based on that legal matter, you as legal are notified on the fact that there is a new contract, a new matter. And at that moment, you can start collaborating with legal and business together on fine-tuning the contract to change potential clauses with alternative clauses and so on. So you push a little bit of the work towards business, you gain time, and you are notified when people are just using standard contracts. Because in a number of cases, you don't need fine-tuning. You just can use standard intelligent contracts with a number of options integrated within that contract. So you gain a lot of time in creating that contract. If you can clarify how it runs in practice.
Yes, thank you, Hans. What you mentioned just now about the template management is something that was partially covered in our previous webinar, which is also available on the ECLA website, which will also be a topic, a specific topic on template and contract generation and management in the next webinar. So please follow up on our next webinars on that one. What I would like to share here with you is following up on what Hans just said. So meaning that you have a proper tool that enables you to manage those templates, because then for the business, it will be another way of working in just requesting those documents. So again, from the legal request portal, what I just mentioned, you should have the ability to create or generate documents. So you need to facilitate the business to just ask for a document. And the business is in some kind of way dumb, if I can express it like that. They just want to have a couple of questions that are presented with them. They just answer them, and then the document should be there. And that's for NDAs, for contracts of all types, etc. Now, why should you do that? Again, it is very important for you as a legal department to track what's happening within the business, who is creating or requesting NDAs to discuss with which kind of counterparties, who is creating what kind of contracts, in what kind of regions, in what kind of contexts. You need to be able to track that, to improve the templates that you're managing, that you're offering to your business colleagues, etc., but also to control what they're using. If they use contracts, if they use clauses, if you don't know what they're using, you're in a very high risk exposure. So to mitigate risk, it is extremely important, and to be able to report on, and also again to reuse. Stop answering the same questions all over again. Stop recreating contracts for your business colleagues that are already available or that can be generated completely automatically. So let me share with you some live demo on how it could work. I'm gonna share my screen with you. There you go. So I'm here in the Nolia platform, which is an enterprise legal management tool for legal departments, where you have, as mentioned before, the legal request area that can be integrated again within another application, an intranet or a SharePoint or a CRM or ERP application, whatever. But you can also have directly access through the Nolia platform, where you can ask your question or request for a document. I'm going to request here an NDA. So I'm from the business. I need an NDA document, an NDA contract. So I'm going to create here some answering some questions. So there are some variable fields that I will answer to. So let's say that I'm from a virtual company, Anton Industries. I am the responsible. I have a certain position. There is a certain purpose for the NDA. There are a couple of years when it's applicable. I'm just saving my query, my request. And now I will generate my NDA. There you go. So now I just created, and if I open this document, he will show me the NDA, which is a template that is managed by the legal department. I'm from the business. I just filled in a couple of variable fields, like who is the counterparty, and automatically he will fill in all the contact details of that counterparty who requested it. It was myself with a certain function as capacity, the purpose, etc. So this document is now automatically generated. There is no interaction with legal. I have immediately what I need. And if you request this, at this moment in time, there could be automatically a matter that is generated within the legal department, so that you keep track and control of the starting of a potential negotiation, of a potential contract, etc., without you having to do anything. So the binder is placed automatically within your filing cupboard without you having to do any effort or any interaction with the legal department. If you change your templates, of course, automatically those templates will be applied in the legal requests as well. So this is just an example. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can give the mic again to Hans.
Thank you, Yves. So, next topic is about notification on legal towards the business. Why? Well, to simplify your world, your legal world within your organization, I think it's wise to help your business colleagues to better understand and to better be up to date on legal topics. And I can assure you, most people are eager to learn more because they understand that legal obligations, compliance, risks are more and more part of their daily life. So to achieve that, one of the elements can be to provide them with short, simple articles on legal topics. 2-3 years ago, it was about GDPR. A couple of months ago, it was maybe on the legal impact of COVID-19 or on the way of working on working from home. Things like that, legal topics that are actually in the news where you can help and provide them with some basics. But it can also be a number of reflections, best practices on things that happened with a certain customer, and that from legal you can generalize it where possible, place it in context, and share it with your colleagues so that they are more aware of things like that. So again, it's about educating them and giving them also access to all the previous topics that exist. Earlier questions, earlier advice, video trainings we talked about. All those things, legal news and that basic education, you can put it in a knowledge base and share it with your business colleagues, making them smarter on legal, making life for you easier. Yves.
Thank you, Hans. So again, what Hans just mentioned and what we mentioned before is if you have the ability to centralize all relevant information in an automated way in a knowledge base, and the automated way is very important because otherwise you won't have the time, nor the discipline, nor the willingness to do so. You have other stuff to do. So you need a supportive tool that automates the centralization of important information for the business, like Q&A, questions and answers that are automatically captured and are reusable for you, but certainly also for the business. Legal news that is centralized and classified automatically by a system so that you have you can concentrate on other stuff, and other types of templates, relevant news that is automatically centralized and notified to the persons that are involved. Why again should you do that? It's all within the perspective of getting you digitized. It's in the perspective of getting you more productive. It's in the perspective of making sure that you have less risk, you have less exposure, and that the service that you deliver as a legal department to your business colleagues is increasing exponentially because you are offering actually them what they need at the time they need it. And you become more efficient because you can actually push back again work to the business colleagues. So again, let me share some insights on how it could work in a platform. I'm going to share my screen again. So we're back in the Nolia platform, just to give you some visual insights of how things could work. On a homepage that is also available to business and that can be injected again in their environments, is it by mail or in their platforms, they can receive notifications on specific legal topics that cover their area of activities or their country or their specialities, etc. So specific information is automatically classified and automatically sent to people that are involved. Other information that is important that can be centralized, again, updated automatically so that business people have access to the information they need. But having access also means that they are able to search. People want to be able to Google figure of speak. If they have a question to the legal department, obviously they can ask the question, but they can also ask the system, the organization, the knowledge base. And therefore, they're not aware of anything. There are no legal experts. They have no legal background. So they need a system that assists them in giving them the right answers. So searching means searching across everything, of course, respecting security. From a legal perspective, when you're managing that information, the system can make sure that everything that is confidential stays confidential, but all relevant information to the business is available for search purposes. Also, scanned documents are automatically OCR'd. Everything is automatically classified. That means that metadata is added automatically. And when I search here, for example, on the word liability, let's say that I need a clause or I need some explanation on liability, etc., but I have no information. I don't know exactly how to define liability, etc. Well, I can search, and this is search in this case within the internal environment of the system, but legal could also make sure that there are certain websites that are involved and in scope of a search so that people can actually find also relevant information that is public, but in their centralized search. So I have my search on liability and I have results. And then I have intelligent metadata that are presented to me that enable me to filter. If I know a little more what I'm looking for, I can apply those filters. And if I have, for example, in my first result here, because we apply relevancy percentages that make sure that you have the most relevant information presented on top so that you don't have to scroll, which you actually can do, but you don't have to. If I see here a template of waiver of liability, well, I maybe immediately have what I need and I have all the information stated within the document that I just requested. If he opens me the document, but he doesn't want me to present the document. There you go. And then you have the possibility to consult the information that you need. But then again, you can have information on liability in different contexts, on different companies, different information types within NDAs or within distribution agreements. So if you know what you're looking for and you know maybe which counterparty is involved, etc. So all these elements are automatically available for you to use as filters to narrow down your search results and very quickly find what you need in the context that you need it and certainly when you need it. Again, without asking the legal department. So I'm a business colleague of yours. I'm doing my search, and I maybe in a couple of seconds find what I need without having to ask you and you having to search for me. So again, pushing back to the business, enabling you to focus on what's important and create a knowledge base automatically available for the business. The word is back to you, Hans, for the fourth element within the legal request portal.
Yeah, the fourth cornerstone is about, again, facilitating business colleagues to have access to important legal information. And from a business perspective, there are two items that are important. If I have to deal with legal documents, who has the authority to sign a document? So then we look to entity management, where within an organization you have different roles, different authorities that are defined. So somewhere you need access to a DOA, delegation of authority, to know as a business people, who should I address for this type of document, for this type of relation that should be signed. I can, of course, also take the telephone and ask to my legal colleagues, but if I can find it within seconds, why should I interrupt and disrupt my legal colleagues? The same is applicable for contractual obligations. Now, within a contract, as business, we know that there is somewhere a contract, but in many cases, business does not look to the details of a contract so that they are sure that they are compliant with the contract details. And one of the reasons is it's too hard to find and to understand what's in a contract. So from a business perspective, it helps if I can easily find a definition on a certain term. If on that term I can find the required actions, the required communications, and if there are timings defined in relation to that term that I'm looking for. So when I have a discussion or a potential issue with a certain customer, I need to know as a business person what's in the contract. And most of the times it's limited to those 4 elements. So Yves, how can that look in real life?
Thank you, Hans. Sharing my screen again. Back into the platform. Let's say I'm a business unit manager of a certain division within your company, and I need information, corporate housekeeping information on my entity, my business unit in my country, in my area. That's a very frequent topic of collaboration. It's about corporate housekeeping documents. It's about information on the entity, maybe shareholders information, but also contractual information. What are all the contracts that are managed within my entity, etc. So again, through a collaboration platform that enables legal, of course, but also the business to have access to restricted access, of course. They can have access to the information on their particular entity or company. So I'm gonna take all entities here. Let's say that I'm responsible for the Neogenic entity here. If I have access to it, I can consult all the information about my entity. What is the address of incorporation? What are the meeting obligations? Who are the shareholders? What are all the corporate housekeeping documents like articles of association, shareholder agreements, etc. Again, if I have access to it. This gives me a 360 view on the management of my company. But I can also see what are all matters that are related to this particular entity. Again, matters that I have access to. Maybe I have not access to all matters. I would only see here the matters that I have access to. And in most cases, it's about contracts and maybe litigation matters that you would like to have access to. These are managed by the legal department, but you can feed them as well automatically through your email account that is linked and that can feed these matters, so that legal also has access to that important information. For example, on litigation files, that important emails are captured automatically as well. And let's say that I want to look into the Antan trade agreement, the Antan contract here. I can have access to that particular matter. So I can navigate from this entity towards the cupboard, the filing cupboard with all the matters linked to this particular entity. This is in particular the Antan agreement. So I have here on this contract a 360 view on all information, but also all related information, being documents, being correspondence, so email that is linked to this particular matter managed by the legal department. And if I need, for example, the signed contract, it is put there by legal, or maybe put there by myself through my email account, or just by a drag and drop, for example, but I have a central point of access to that particular information. And I can, of course, if I have the rights to consult this document. Now, this is in a very structured way that I go to my entity, I browse towards my matters, I open the matter, and I have here the contract properly organized and sitting where it should be. But I could also say I don't have the time nor the discipline, and I don't know where it is, that contract, but I need it now. Again, like I stated before, I can start searching. And if I search on the text on the word Uptown, he will present me with all information that I'm allowed to see, because everything else will be filtered out. He presents me with all information that contains the word Anton somewhere. And then I can say I only want to see PDF documents, because I know that I'm searching for a contract. And then again, I see too many PDFs, so I only want to see contracts. I don't need to see advice or articles of association. And this way, I can immediately retrieve the documents that I need, without again having to ask the business, having to ask the legal department, where is the signed contract, etc. This way, I can find it immediately, last version, signed version, etc. Other possibilities that you have in search, for example, when it comes to contract obligations, for example, you want to search for a certain definition because you have an obligation in your commercial and operational agreement with your counterparty, but you don't know exactly what your contractual obligation is. Well, you can actually go and search for it. And I'm going to search here, for example, on acceptable use policy. But I don't know what it means. So I'm going to ask the system what it means. So again, what I do now here is perform a full text search across everything that is in scope, allowing me to have a view on all information that contains acceptable use policy means. I find here the contract, so I can open that document, and that's a Word document. He will present me with a preview of that document, and he will indicate within the document where acceptable use policy is defined as a definition. So I can actually immediately retrieve that information and be presented with what I need and be able to use it. So there you go. I have here acceptable use policy, the definition, in just a couple of clicks, without having to ask the legal department, having what I need, being able to use it or reuse it, and being able to comply with my contractual obligations. So this is an example. So I'm going to give back the screen to Hans.
So
there you go.
This we already had. This we already had.
Maybe go back, Hans, because I think we missed just one slide here. Yes, this was the last one when it comes to collaboration that we would like to share with you, because it's a very important element. You as a legal department, you want a better collaboration, a better marriage with your business colleagues. A tool, a platform, software is, of course, key, is very important. But if you want to enhance collaboration, that tool needs to be integrated somehow with the business tools that your colleagues are using. Because if you are going to impose whatever tool to them and saying to them, well, here is a very good tool, you just have to put everything in there and everything will be fine and everybody will be happy. That won't work, because those people, it's not their tool, it's not their environment, it's extra work for them. So that won't work. So to have an easy to use and secure environment, it needs to integrate with the existing familiar tools of your colleagues. Why is that? Of course, you want the buy-in of the business. You want actually them to collaborate and share information without giving them extra tasks. But you need to be able to mitigate risk. So you need an integration of such a tool. And integration, what does it mean? What are your business colleagues using? They're using, if you're in a Microsoft environment, they're using Outlook, they're using SharePoint, they're using OneDrive, they're using Teams, they're using classic shared drives. In their more Google environment, they're using OneDrive and Google Mail, etc. So a tool supporting your department, a legal request portal integrated in such a tool, it needs to be integrated, collaborating, speaking with those tools. If not, you will have a standalone solution that will not be adapted or adopted by your business colleagues, and your project will fail, or your digitalization will not be as you wished, and your collaboration will certainly not be enhanced, and moreover, your marriage won't work. And that's not the purpose. So also be aware that your tool is integrated with their way of working. There are new ways of collaboration, certainly in days as today, like Microsoft Teams, for example, just to give one of those platforms as an example. It is a tool that is there. Almost every company of a certain size works with it. So why not integrate your platform, your digital platform as a legal department with such tools? Because the business colleagues are using them and will continue using them. So if they don't speak with each other, you might have a problem in enhancing your collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Yves. Now, as a kind of wrap up, so to implement a legal request portal, to achieve that and to improve the relation between legal and business, we have three main components. First of all, your culture. RUCAT, respect, understanding, communication, aim for balance, help and develop each other. You need to work together with HR, together with internal communication, together with management on that culture. Culture is a key element. A second element is to define your organizational support. What about policies? What about interactions, procedures, dictionary, trainings? Think about an award, think about KPIs. So your organizational support is also very important. And your third element is about your legal request portal. How can you facilitate? How can you become proactive? How can you push back a number of tasks to your business colleagues? Tasks that they are doing anyhow. Just avoid that you do the double work. And in the legal request portal, it's about four main components: questions and advice, contract creation, legal news and a knowledge base, and access by the business to legal context, being corporate housekeeping on the authorizations and on your contractual obligations. So with those three elements in place, you are very well placed to integrate, to improve the relation, to come to a good marriage between legal and business.
Thank you very much, Hans and Yves, for sharing those very interesting insights with us. I've had a look at the chat box. There are not immediately some questions that were asked by the audience, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to mail it. The mail address is mentioned on the slide, and you will also receive the presentation because it will be sent by ECLA, and you can also ask more questions about it by just mailing us. And we have two new webinars that will come in the future. How to save at least 93,000 euros per year for your legal department sounds quite interesting. So don't forget to register on the ECLA website. And also in September, we would also love to see you back at our next webinar about the complete contract chain. So keep an eye on the ECLA website so that you will know when this will happen in September. Thank you very much for your attendance, and back to you, Martin.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Yves, and then thank you, Cian, for this wonderful presentation. From my side, I would like to thank all of you joining as well, and then I would like to note that all the recordings are also available on our website. So please go to ecla.eu. /events/OLC, and then you can view all past presentations from there as well. And then thank you once again, and I hope you have a good day.
Thanks to you all as well.
Bye.